When you have a bet, never be afraid to have a bet, your maximum bet on the big price stalls. One of the reasons I first left work was I backed to an horse called Captain Dibble, all eights down from 33 to 1 down to 8 to 1. Woody won the Scottish National many, many moons ago when I could get in a pair of jeans, and the only foreigner playing in the Premiership was the referee. If you fancy an even money shot and you say you're going to have £100 on it and you fancy a 33 to 1 shot, don't be afraid to have your £100 on a 33 to 1 shot. That is my golden rule of betting. Always, always have a big bet on a big price horse. Don't be afraid of the price.
Never, never take any notice of trends. They're based on small samples, they're unscientific. Make your thinking flexible and dynamic.
Concentrate on the ability of the horse first and foremost. We can often get sucked into looking at draws and pace and ground and jockeys and trainer form and all those sort of things, and yes, they do all have an effect, but ability is by far the most important thing, so concentrate on that first.
The single most important thing when betting on horses is to take into account the state of the ground. We've seen a recent example with Henry the Navigator in the Moulin. He started 11 to 10 favourite but finished a well-beaten 5th. This was because the ground was good to soft. He showed all his form on fast ground, yet layers could still lay him at a shade of odds against. Ludicrous.
Golden rules of betting, it's more of a practical idea that there's so much racing nowadays that you need to be able to filter through your workload. You look at a day's racing and there's a lot to get through. And one trick that I try and use is to focus on races that where there's a shape to the market, where you're not looking at 7 to 1 in the field. If you've got 8 horses that are between 7 to 1 and 12 to 1 or whatever, and then there's another load of others in a big handicap. It's very difficult to solve, whereas mathematically, I think if you can focus on a race where the favourite's short, you can then decide, do I play with him or against him? If you can take him on, you've got a good chance of getting some value.
When you're looking at the race, the first thing I'll try and do is get the favourite beaten. If every favourite won, there'd be a massive queue outside the betting shops at 10:15 on a Saturday morning, and so far when I've been down there hasn't been. Always, always try and get the favourite beat. In the long term, you will end up making money. It may seem obvious that every time you look at a race that the favourite will win, but in the long term, if you are serious about making money, leave the favourites alone. I only know one person who makes money back in favourites, and that's Harry Finley. He's a complete one-off. Everybody else has tried it and done their brains. Try and leave the favourites alone and find some value.
On the basis of this interview, but I'll put the caveat in that say, do as I say, not as I do. I would suggest that these big meetings, never, ever, ever bet when you've got a raging hangover. I can promise you after 20 years experience, it doesn't work.
Personally, I believe in tools, not rules, but always, always back horses who can fire a new top. Nowadays, it's no good relying on horses simply to reproduce what's in the form book.
Never bet anti-post unless you have absolutely brilliant reasons for doing so. It's hard enough finding value on the day of the race without having to contend with injuries, change in the going condition, change in running plans, or even change in ownership. It's also particularly galling to take 10 to 1 about something miles in advance of the race, only to find out it's going off at 33s on the day.
If there's one thing that annoys punters more than anything else, it will be when they miss a winner, when they get talked out of a winner, or when they've fancied a winner but have changed their mind at the last minute. So that would be the thing never to do in my book. Concentrate on what you know, stick to it, and bet that way.
The one bit of advice I was given when I started betting, and I think it stood in me, I'm not going to preach about never betting odds on favourites or short price horses, but just every time you want to back a horse at 4 to 6, before you write the slip out, ask yourself whether you want to back the rest of the field at 6 to 4, which is effectively what you're doing. And I think once you do that, there'll be a few times you'll tear a betting slip up and it'll be to your benefit. So yeah, always work out whether you'd rather have the field at the other side of the price than back your odds-on shot. If you still fancy the odds-on shot after that, then steam in.
The ability to forgive is an admirable trait to have in life, and the same quality isn't too shabby a one to have in horse racing. Being able to find good excuses and good reasons for a horse running poorly can lead to you being able to bag excellent value prices about them in the future.
Also, in 8-runner races, don't be afraid to back each way. In maiden races, half the field aren't, I was going to say not trying, but I better not. Half the field are inexperienced or being trained for another day with handicaps in mind. If you back an horse at 3 to 1, you have £100 each way, you'll get back £160, you'll get 60% of your stake back, and in the long run, you'll back enough 3 to 1 winners to show a profit betting like that. Don't be afraid to back each way in 8-runner races at 3 to 1 and 7 to 2 prices like that.